They stripped away everything that should have belonged to her. The expensive dress, given to her sister.
The diamond ring, taken from her hand. And the woman who was supposed to become the billionaire family's daughter-in-law?
They handed her a mop and told her to clean the floor before the guests arrived.
You were never good enough for this family.
Everyone laughed. The servants looked away. Even the guests believed she was nothing more than another maid. But there was one thing no one in that mansion knew. The quiet woman holding that mop wasn't there by accident. She had been waiting for this night. Before the engagement party was over, the entire billionaire family would be begging the woman they had just humiliated.
They dressed her in the cheapest gown in the house. They gave her sister the diamonds. They gave her the mop. On the night of the engagement party, they told her one thing: stay in the kitchen. Smile if anyone looks at you. And don't speak. Nobody in that mansion knew her real name. They only called her the maid. But one man at that party knew exactly who she was. And by the end of the night, he would stand in front of everyone and change her life forever. This is the story of Amara. The girl they threw away. And the man who saw her when no one else would. The Okafor mansion sat on a hill above Lagos, tall gates, white pillars, security men in black suits. Inside, the marble floor was so clean you could see your own face in it. Tonight, the house was full of light. Full of laughter. Full of rich people in silk and gold. It was the engagement party of Kelechi Okafor, only son of billionaire Chief Emeka Okafor, owner of half the shipping ports in West Africa. Kelechi stood in the center of the hall, tall, handsome, wearing a suit that cost more than most houses. Beside him stood his fiancée, Adiz, in a red dress covered in real diamonds. Everyone smiled at them. Everyone clapped. But in the kitchen, behind the swinging door, a young woman knelt on the floor, scrubbing wine stains from the marble. Her name was Amara. She wore a plain gray dress. Her hair was tied back with an old cloth. Her hands were rough from years of washing dishes, cleaning floors, carrying trays. She was 24 years old. And in that house, she was nobody. Amara. Faster, shouted Madame Gozi, the head housekeeper. The guests are arriving. If one plate is dirty, it is your salary that will suffer. Yes, madam, Amara said quietly, not lifting her eyes. She had learned, a long time ago, that in this house, you do not look people in the eye. You do not speak unless spoken to. You do not exist, unless they need something from you. 3 years ago, Amara's father had worked for Chief Okafor as a driver. He died in an accident on the Lagos-Ibadan expressway, driving the chief's car, on the chief's errand. The chief gave the family a small payment. And then, when Amara's mother fell sick and could not pay the hospital bills, Amara came to the mansion and begged for work. They gave her the lowest job in the house. And they never let her forget it. Look at her hands, Adiz had once said to her friends, laughing. Like sandpaper. That is what happens when you are born poor. Amara had said nothing. She never said anything. She only worked, and sent every naira home to her sick mother, and prayed for a better day. Tonight, she carried a tray of champagne glasses toward the hall, keeping her head down, moving quietly along the wall like a shadow. That was when she saw him. A man standing alone near the window, away from the noise and the lights. He wore a simple black suit, no jewelry, no flashy watch. He was not part of the crowd around Kelechi. He seemed to be, watching. Studying the room like a man reading a book. Their eyes met for 1 second. Amara looked away quickly and kept walking. But something in his gaze had felt different. Not the look rich people gave her, the look that saw right through her, like she was furniture. This man had actually seen her. She did not know his name. She did not know that everyone else in that room, the guards, the staff, even Chief Okafor himself, had been quietly warned not to disturb him. She did not know that he had arrived in a plain black car, no driver, no entourage, dressed like he did not want to be noticed. She did not know that this man was Adrian Balogun, the owner of the very shipping company that Chief Okafor depended on to survive. The man who could, with one signature, end the Okafor family's entire fortune. Tonight, he had come only to observe. To watch how Chief Okafor treated the people around him, because Adrian had heard rumors. Rumors of a man who mistreated his own workers. Rumors of a family that valued gold more than people. He wanted to see it with his own eyes before deciding whether to keep doing business with the Okafors. And within the first 10 minutes, he had already seen everything he needed to see. "Where is that girl with the champagne?" Adis snapped, scanning the room. "Kelechi, your father's staff are so slow." "Amara." Kelechi called out, his voice sharp and loud, cutting through the music. "Bring it here. Now." Amara hurried forward, tray steady in her hands, careful not to spill a single drop. But as she leaned down to serve the tray, Adis, perhaps on purpose, perhaps not, moved her arm suddenly. The tray tilted. One glass of red wine spilled, splashing across the front of Adis' white shoes. The room went quiet. "You clumsy girl!" Adis shrieked, jumping back. "Do you know how much these shoes cost? More than your entire life put together." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Cruel, cutting laughter. "I'm sorry, madam," Amara whispered, kneeling immediately to wipe the floor, her hands trembling. "I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't clean my shoes," Adis said coldly. She looked at Kelechi. "Do something about your father's clumsy maid." Kelechi looked down at Amara like she was an insect on the floor. "Is this how you were raised?" he said loudly, making sure everyone could hear. "Careless. Useless. This is why you people stay poor. You cannot even hold a tray properly." More laughter. Amara's eyes burned with tears, but she refused to let them fall. "Not here. Not in front of these people." "Get up," Kelechi said, "and get out of my sight before you embarrass this family further." Amara stood, lowered her head, and walked away as fast as she could without running, the whispers and laughter chasing her out of the hall. From across the room, Adrian watched every second of it. His jaw tightened. His hands, resting in his pockets, curled into fists. He had seen many things in business: greed, betrayal, cruelty behind closed doors. But something about the way this young woman held her dignity, even while being humiliated in front of 50 strangers, struck something deep inside him. She did not scream. She did not argue. She simply endured, with a kind of quiet strength that most people in that room, dressed in silk and diamonds, could never understand. Adrian did not say a word. Not yet. But he made a decision, right there, standing by the window. He was going to find out who that young woman was. Amara pushed through the kitchen door and leaned against the wall, finally letting the tears fall. She wiped her face quickly with her sleeve. Crying would not fix her mother's hospital bills. Crying would not change the family she was born into. "They laughed at you again," said Blessing, the young kitchen helper, handing her a cloth. "One day, Amara, one day God will show them who you really are." "God is taking his time," Amara said, trying to smile through her tears. "Patience, my sister. The night is darkest before the morning." Amara nodded, though her heart did not believe it. She had heard this kind of comfort many times. She had learned to survive without waiting for miracles. She picked up a fresh tray and prepared to go back out. That was when the kitchen door opened, and a tall figure stepped inside. It was him. The man from the window. "Sir, guests aren't allowed back here," Amara said quickly, straightening up, embarrassed by her tear-streaked face. "I know," Adrian said calmly. "I wanted to make sure you were all right." Amara blinked, confused. Rich people did not check on maids. Rich people did not care. "I'm fine, sir," she said quietly. thank you for asking. But you should go back to the party. That woman had no right to speak to you that way, Adrian said, his voice low but firm. Or him. Amara looked down. It doesn't matter, sir. This is my life. I am used to it. You shouldn't have to be used to it, Adrian said. Something in his voice made Amara look up at him properly for the first time. His eyes were kind, but serious. There was a weight to him, the way he stood, the way he spoke, that felt different from anyone she had met in this house. What is your name? He asked. Amara, sir. Amara, he repeated, like he was memorizing it. I am Adrian. He did not tell her his surname. He did not tell her he owned the company that fed the entire Okafor empire. He only smiled, a small, warm smile, and said, You held your head high tonight, Amara. Not many people could do that. Before she could respond, Madame Gozi's voice rang out from the hallway. Amara. Where are you? The dessert trays. I have to go, sir, Amara whispered, and hurried past him, her heart pounding for reasons she could not explain. Adrian stood alone in the kitchen for a long moment. He had come tonight to study Chief Okafor's character. Instead, he had found something else entirely, a young woman with more grace and dignity in one small moment than the entire party combined. He did not know it yet, but that single conversation would change both of their lives forever. 2 days later, Chief Okafor called an emergency meeting in his office. His face was pale, his hands were shaking as he read a letter on his desk. Adrian Balagan is pulling out, he said to his wife, Chief Mrs. Okafor. He says our shipping contract will not be renewed unless, he stopped, rereading the letter, unless he sees proof that this family treats its workers with dignity. What does that mean? His wife asked, alarmed. Without that contract, their entire fortune, their homes, their status, everything would collapse. It means, Chief Okafor said slowly, that somehow, that man saw something at the party that he did not like. He called Kelechi into the office immediately. What did you do? He demanded. Adrian Balagan controls the port contracts we depend on. If he walks away, we lose everything. Kelechi frowned, confused. I didn't do anything, Papa. I don't even know the man. But someone in the house did know something. Blessing, listening quietly from the hallway, remembered the tall stranger who had followed Amara into the kitchen. She said nothing to the chief. But she began to watch Amara more closely, and she began to wonder. The very next morning, a letter arrived at the mansion. Addressed not to Chief Okafor, not to Kelechi, but to Amara. Madame Gozi, confused and suspicious, brought it to her. Someone sent this. For you, she said, staring at Amara like she had grown 2 heads. Since when does anyone write letters to the maid? Amara's hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a simple note. Amara, I would like to speak with you properly, away from that house. There is a small cafe on Admiralty Road. I will be there tomorrow at noon, if you are able to come. No pressure. Adrian. Amara stared at the words for a long time. Part of her wanted to burn the letter. Rich men did not write letters to poor maids for good reasons. She had heard the stories, men who used their power to take advantage of women with nothing. But something about Adrian's eyes in the kitchen, the way he had looked at her, not like an object, but like a person, made her hesitate. She decided to go. Just to hear what he wanted to say. The next day, on her only free hour, Amara walked to the small cafe on Admiralty Road, her heart pounding the entire way. She wore her only nice dress, a simple blue one her mother had sewn for her years ago. Adrian was already there, sitting by the window, 2 cups of tea waiting on the table. You came, he said, standing to pull out her chair. Thank you. I almost didn't, Amara admitted, sitting carefully. I don't understand what you want from me, sir. Please, just Adrian, he said gently. And I don't want anything from you. I wanted to apologize for what happened at the party. And I wanted to know your story. My story is not interesting, Amara said, looking down at her tea. I clean floors. I wash dishes. That is all. I don't believe that, Adrian said. A person's job is not their story. Slowly, carefully, Amara began to open up. She told him about her father, the driver who died serving Chief Okafor. She told him about her sick mother, about the medical bills piling up, about how she had begged for work just to survive. She told him about years of being spoken to like she did not matter. Years of being invisible. Adrian listened to every word without interrupting. His anger grew quietly inside him, but he kept his voice calm. You didn't deserve any of that, he said finally. Nobody asks what I deserve, Amara said, a bitter smile on her lips. In that house, you are only worth what you can be used for. That's not true everywhere, Adrian said. It shouldn't be true anywhere. They talked for almost 2 hours. About small things, her favorite food, the songs her mother used to sing, her dream of one day opening a small tailoring shop. About bigger things, fairness, dignity, what it meant to truly see another human being. For the first time in years, Amara felt like a person again. Not a maid. Not a shadow. A person, with thoughts and dreams that mattered to someone. She did not know that Adrian was quietly falling for her, not for her beauty alone, though she was beautiful, but for the strength hidden behind her humility, the grace behind her pain. And Amara, though she tried to guard her heart, felt something stir inside her that she had not felt in a very long time. Hope. Over the following weeks, Amara and Adrian met whenever she could steal a free hour. Small moments. A walk along the beach at Bar Beach. Quiet conversations over roasted corn from a street vendor. Simple joy that neither of them had realized they were missing. Adrian never once told her about his true wealth. He wanted her to know him, not his money. He wanted, just once in his life, to be loved for who he was, not what he owned. Why do you keep coming to see a maid? Amara asked him one evening, as they sat on a bench watching the waves. You could be with anyone. Someone from your own world. I don't want anyone from my world, Adrian said. I want someone who sees the world clearly. And you, Amara, see more clearly than anyone I've ever met. Amara laughed softly, a real, warm laugh, the kind she rarely allowed herself anymore. You talk too sweetly for a man I know nothing about, she teased. Then ask me anything, Adrian said. What do you do, really? You dress simply, but that suit you wore at the party, that was not a cheap suit. Adrian smiled, a little nervous for the first time. I work in shipping. It's a family business. It was the truth. Just not the whole truth. He was not ready yet to tell her everything, not because he didn't trust her, but because he wanted to be sure that when she looked at him, she saw him, and not the empire behind his name. Amara did not push further. She simply nodded, satisfied, and turned her face back to the ocean breeze. In those quiet weeks, something beautiful grew between them, slow, gentle, real. Adrian treated her like a queen, not with expensive gifts, but with respect. He asked for her opinions. He listened when she spoke. He remembered the small things, how she liked her tea, the name of her sick mother, the songs that made her smile. For Amara, it felt like healing. Like someone was finally repairing the parts of her heart that years of humiliation had broken. But peace, in stories like this, never lasts long. Back at the mansion, life had not gotten easier for Amara. If anything, it had gotten worse. Chief Okafor, desperate to save the shipping contract, had ordered his staff to treat the workers better, but it was only for show. Behind closed doors, nothing had changed. Adiz, sensing something different in Amara's spirit, a new light in her eyes, a new confidence in her posture, grew suspicious and jealous. Why do you walk around here like you own something? Adiz snapped one afternoon, cornering Amara in the hallway. You are still nothing. Still a maid. Don't forget your place. I haven't forgotten anything, madam, Amara replied calmly, refusing to lower her eyes this time. Adiz's face twisted with anger. She was not used to being met with calm strength. You dare to look at me like that? I am simply looking at you, madam. Nothing more. Adi slapped a stack of folded towels out of Amara's hands, scattering them across the floor. Pick them up. And know your place before I have you thrown out of this house. Amara knelt to gather the towels, her jaw tight, her heart pounding, not with fear this time, but with a quiet, growing strength. That evening, Kelechi called her into the study, alone. I hear you've been sneaking out, he said, arms crossed, eyes cold. Meeting some man on Admiralty Road. Amara froze. Someone had been watching her. That is my private business, she said carefully. Nothing in this house is private, Kelechi snapped. You work for my family. You represent this family. If you shame us by running around with strange men, there will be consequences. I am not shaming anyone, Amara said, her voice trembling but steady. I am simply living my life, the only part of it that is mine. Kelechi stepped closer, his voice low and threatening. Careful, Amara. People like you disappear from houses like this all the time. Nobody would even notice. Amara felt fear rise in her chest, but she did not let it show on her face. She had endured worse than threats. You married poverty when your father took a job as a driver, Kelechi added coldly. Don't think love will change what you are. The words cut deep, but Amara straightened her back and walked out of the room without another word. That night, alone in her small quarters behind the kitchen, she cried, not from weakness, but from exhaustion. Exhaustion of being made to feel small, over and over again, in a house that saw her only as a servant. She thought of Adrian's warm eyes, his gentle voice, the way he made her feel seen. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she deserved more than this life. The following week, strange things began happening around the Okafor mansion. Chief Okafor received an urgent call from his lawyer. Sir, the man requesting the audit of our shipping contracts, it's Adrian Balogun himself. He wants to personally inspect our operations. Personally? Chief Okafor said, stunned. He never does site visits himself. He sends representatives. Apparently, sir, he made an exception this time. Chief Okafor's hands began to sweat. Adrian Balogun was not simply a business partner, he was the business partner, the man whose company controlled nearly 70% of the ports his shipments depended on. If Adrian withdrew his contract, the Okafor empire would crumble within months. Meanwhile, Adiz, still suspicious about Amara's secret meetings, hired a private driver to follow her. What the driver reported back left her stunned. Madam, the man she meets, his car. I recognized the plate number. It belongs to Balogun Shipping Group. Adiz's blood ran cold. Are you certain? Yes, madam. I have seen that car outside Chief Okafor's business meetings before. Adiz said nothing to anyone yet. She needed to be sure. This could either destroy Amara, or, if handled wrong, destroy her own family's fortune. Meanwhile, small clues kept appearing. A security guard at the gate once bowed slightly when Adrian's car passed, out of habit, before catching himself. A hotel manager, seeing Adrian and Amara together at a quiet restaurant, addressed him as Mr. Balogun, sir, with visible nervousness before Adrian gently corrected him. Amara noticed these things too, small, strange moments that did not add up. Why did that waiter's hands shake when he served you? She asked one evening, laughing slightly, though something uneasy stirred in her chest. He probably just recognized me from somewhere, Adrian said smoothly, though guilt flickered behind his eyes. Amara studied him for a long moment. Adrian, who are you, really? I promise, Adrian said, taking her hand gently, there is nothing about me that should ever make you doubt how I feel about you. But there are things I need to tell you. Soon. I promise. Amara nodded slowly, though a small seed of worry had been planted in her heart. She did not yet know the truth. But she was starting to suspect that Adrian was not simply a shipping worker. Chief Okafor, desperate to save the family's contract, decided to host a grand business dinner at the Eco Grand Hotel, inviting Adrian Balogun as the guest of honor, hoping to convince him personally to continue their partnership. Everyone must be on their best behavior, Chief Okafor warned his family sternly. Our entire future depends on this dinner. Adiz, seeing an opportunity, insisted that Amara be brought along to help serve, a decision that would soon explode in ways nobody expected. The banquet hall shimmered with crystal chandeliers and white tablecloths. Lagos's wealthiest families filled the tables, dressed in their finest. At the head table sat Chief Okafor, his wife, Kelechi, and Adiz, waiting nervously for their most important guest. In the kitchen, Amara adjusted her uniform, unaware that the man she loved was the very reason for tonight's grand event. "You." "Maid," Adiz called sharply as Amara entered the hall carrying a tray. "Come here. I want everyone to see something." Amara hesitated, sensing danger, but obeyed. Adiz smiled cruelly at the surrounding guests. "This girl has been secretly meeting a man behind our backs. Sneaking around like she is someone important. I thought everyone deserved a good laugh tonight." Gasps and whispers spread through the hall. Kelechi smirked, enjoying the show. "Tell everyone, Amara," Adiz pressed, her voice sharp with mockery, "who is this mystery man you've been chasing? Some other driver? Some gateman, perhaps?" Amara's face burned with humiliation, but she said nothing, gripping the tray tightly to stop her hands from shaking. "Speak," Adiz demanded. "Or are you too ashamed to admit you were dreaming above your station?" At that exact moment, the double doors of the banquet hall opened. Adrian Balogun walked in. The room fell into stunned silence. Waiters bowed. Guests stood immediately from their seats. Chief Okafor nearly knocked over his wine glass, scrambling to his feet. "Mr. Balogun. Welcome, welcome, we are so honored." But Adrian's eyes were not on Chief Okafor. They were on Amara. Standing in the middle of the hall, tray still trembling in her hands, tears threatening to fall, humiliated in front of everyone she feared. Adrian walked past the entire Okafor family without a word, straight toward her. The room watched in absolute shock as the most powerful shipping magnate in West Africa gently took the tray from Amara's hands, set it aside, and turned to face the stunned crowd. "I believe," Adrian said, his voice calm but carrying across the silent hall, "someone asked who this woman has been meeting." Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. "It's me," Adrian said simply. "I am the man she has been meeting. And I would like everyone in this room to know exactly who Amara is to me." Chief Okafor's face went pale as ash. Adiz's mouth hung open. Kelechi stood frozen, unable to process what was happening. "You called her a maid," Adrian continued, his voice growing firmer. "You called her nothing. You humiliated her in front of strangers, mocked her for loving simply, and made her feel small for having nothing but her dignity." He turned slightly, addressing the entire room now. "Let me tell you who Amara really is. She is the strongest, kindest, most graceful person I have ever met. And she is the woman I intend to marry." The room erupted into stunned murmurs. "You gatekeeper!" Adiz suddenly blurted out, her old insult from months ago escaping her lips in panic. You can't be. Now you stand inside a hotel my company owns," Adrian said quietly, turning his gaze on her, "eating food served by staff who work for companies under my group, at a dinner your family arranged to beg me not to end our contract." Adiz's face drained of all color. Chief Okafor stumbled forward. "Mr. Balogun, please, there has clearly been a misunderstanding." "There is no misunderstanding," Adrian said coldly. "I have watched, for months, how this family treats people they believe are beneath them. Tonight only confirmed everything I suspected." He turned back to Amara, his expression softening completely, all the coldness melting away as he looked at her. "I'm sorry it happened like this," he said gently, taking her hand. "I wanted to tell you the truth myself, in private, with tenderness. Not like this." Amara stared at him, overwhelmed, tears finally falling, but not from humiliation this time. From shock. From disbelief. From a storm of emotions she could not yet name. Amara pulled her hand away gently and stepped back, her chest heaving. "You lied to me," she whispered, loud enough for only him to hear, though the hall remained painfully silent, hanging on every word. "All those weeks. All those conversations. You let me believe you were just, simple. Like me." "I never lied about how I felt," Adrian said quietly. "I only delayed the truth, because I wanted you to love the man, not the money." "You should have trusted me with the truth," Amara said, her voice breaking. "I trusted you with everything. My pain. My father. My fears. And you gave me half of yourself." She turned and walked out of the banquet hall, past the stunned crowd, past Chief Okafor's family, out into the cool night air, leaving Adrian standing alone in front of everyone. He did not chase her immediately. He understood, she needed space. She needed time to breathe, to process the storm that had just crashed into her life. Instead, he turned back to Chief Okafor, his voice now icy calm. "Effective immediately, Balagan Shipping Group is terminating its contract with your company. Please, Mr. Balagan, we can discuss." "There is nothing to discuss," Adrian said. "A family that treats people this way does not deserve the trust of mine." He walked out of the hall, leaving devastation behind him, Chief Okafor's business future crumbling, Adi's engagement to Kelechi suddenly meaningless in the eyes of Lagos society, and a room full of witnesses who would spread this story across the city by morning. Outside, Amara stood beneath the hotel's grand entrance lights, arms wrapped around herself, tears streaming down her face. Adrian found her there 20 minutes later. "I'm not here to convince you of anything," he said softly, standing a respectful distance away. "I only want to say I'm sorry. Truly sorry. I should have told you the truth from the beginning." Amara wiped her face, turning to face him. "Do you know what it feels like, Adrian? To finally believe someone sees you, really sees you, and then discover you don't even know his real name?" "You always knew my real name," Adrian said gently. "I never lied about who I am inside. Only what I own." "That's not a small thing to hide," Amara said. "You're right," Adrian admitted. "It wasn't small. And I was wrong to wait so long. I was afraid, Amara. Afraid that if you knew, you would see me the way everyone else does, as money, as power, as an opportunity. I wanted, just once, to be loved simply. The way you love." Amara looked at him for a long moment, her heart torn between hurt and understanding. "I need time," she said finally. "Not because I don't care about you. But because I need to know who I am, outside of being someone's secret or someone's maid or someone's fiancée. I need to know Amara, just Amara, before I can trust this." "Take all the time you need," Adrian said. "I'm not going anywhere." In the days that followed, news of the banquet hall confrontation spread across Lagos like wildfire. The Okafor family's business empire, already fragile, began to collapse as other partners, hearing the story, distanced themselves as well, unwilling to be associated with a family known for cruelty. Kelechi's engagement to Adi's quietly dissolved, neither family wanted to be tied to the growing scandal. Adi's, humiliated in the same social circles where she once ruled, found herself facing the very isolation she had once inflicted on others. Amara, meanwhile, left the Okafor mansion for good. With a small amount of savings and, unbeknownst to her, a discreet fund Adrian had quietly set up for her mother's medical care, she moved into a small apartment and began, for the first time, to build a life on her own terms. She got her mother the proper treatment she needed. She enrolled in evening tailoring classes, chasing the small dream she had once whispered to Adrian on a park bench by the sea. Adrian did not chase her. He respected her request for space. But every week, a small gift arrived at her door, never expensive, never showy. A book she had once mentioned loving. Fabric for her tailoring classes. A note, simple and warm, still here. No pressure. Adrian. Slowly, the wound in Amara's heart began to heal. Not because Adrian had money or power, but because even now, even after everything, he continued to show her the same quiet respect he had shown her the very first night in that kitchen. 3 months later, on a quiet Sunday evening, Amara stood outside her small tailoring shop, freshly opened, with a modest sign that read Amara's Threads, admiring the life she had built with her own 2 hands. A car pulled up. Adrian stepped out, dressed simply, no entourage, just as he had been the very first time she saw him. "I heard the shop open today," he said, smiling gently. "I wanted to see it for myself." Amara smiled, a real, warm, unguarded smile. "You could have just texted congratulations." "I wanted to say it in person," Adrian said. "And I wanted to ask you something. Properly, this time. No hidden identity. No secrets." He stepped closer. "I fell in love with you when you were nobody in the eyes of the world, Amara. And I have loved you every day since, watching you become somebody entirely on your own strength. I don't need you to need me. I only want to stand beside you, as an equal, for the rest of my life, if you'll let me." Amara's eyes filled with tears, but this time, they were tears of joy. "You broke my heart once," she said softly. "I know," Adrian said. "But you also taught me that I deserve to be seen," she continued. "All of me. Not just the parts that are easy to love." "I see all of you, Amara," Adrian said. "I always have." She stepped forward and took his hand, this time, by her own choice, with full understanding of who he was, and full acceptance of who she had become. "Then yes," she whispered. "I forgive you. And yes, I choose you too." Word of Amara and Adrian's reconciliation spread quickly through Lagos society. The very people who once mocked her, who called her the maid, who laughed at her worn hands and simple dresses, now spoke her name with careful respect, even envy. Chief Okafor, his business empire now a shadow of what it once was, sent a quiet letter of apology, which Amara read with a calm heart, neither angry nor triumphant, simply at peace. Adiz, humbled by the public fall from grace, was seen months later working an ordinary job in the city, the diamonds and designer dresses long gone, learning, perhaps for the first time, what it felt like to be looked at the way she once looked at others. Amara never sought revenge. She did not need to. Life itself had balanced the scales. On a warm evening 6 months later, Amara and Adrian married, not in a grand hotel filled with strangers, but in a small, beautiful garden ceremony surrounded by the people who had truly stood by her, blessing, her mother, now healthy and smiling, and a small circle of true friends. There were no diamonds forced upon her this time. She wore a simple white dress she had designed and sewn herself. As she walked down the aisle toward Adrian, she remembered every painful night in that kitchen, every humiliation, every tear shed in silence. And she smiled, because she finally understood a truth she would carry for the rest of her life. She was never the girl they threw away. She was simply the woman the world had not yet recognized. They called her a maid. They called her nothing. But love does not see what the world sees, love sees the heart. And in the end, the girl they threw away became the woman an empire bowed to.